how's it going, friends? Thank you for tuning in to VR Revelations once again. I hope you're having a wonderful day. God bless you. Make sure you give this video a like and make sure you subscribe for future videos. Again, more attacks here being launched by the Russians into Ukraine. This time it looks like they've continued their assault on the city of Kherson, which of course the Ukrainians took back a couple of weeks ago. And now, according to multiple reports and other articles I read, it looks like the government there is evacuating the people out of the city because of the intensified attacks by the Russians. We also have some more updates on the Bakhmut area. So before I jump into the article here, let's actually go ahead and take a look at the live UA map, which has minute-by-minute updates of what is happening in Ukraine right now. So if we zoom out, we can see the whole of Ukraine, of course, here. We can see all the area that the Russians currently control. All of this is missile attacks, guys, so you can see just how devastating the attacks are in this region. But the area that we're going to be talking about here briefly is going to be the city of Kherson, which is actually down here towards the southeast of Ukraine. We can see here the report says, at Kherson direction, Russian army shelled settlements on the right bank of the Dnipro River, including Zervona Rivka of Dnipropetrovsk region and Antonivka and Kherson city of Kherson region. General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine says in the morning report. Of course, I believe they are a couple of hours ahead of us over there. Well, in comparison to the United States. So we can see the city of Kherson here. It looks like, yes, we have some bombardments there, and things are very, very difficult right now for the people of Ukraine as we head into the winter months. There are reports now that it looks like they are going to have to, shut off the electricity periodically like they have been doing, but even more so now, even though they are entering into the winter months, because a lot of people are using up electricity way more than they can generate right now with, all the infrastructure that was destroyed by the Russians. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this brief report here. So it says, Russian forces increased mortar and artillery attacks on the city of Kherson more than 6 weeks after it was retaken by Ukrainian troops. While also exerting pressure along front lines in the east, Ukraine's military said on Wednesday. Russia had shelled more than 25 settlements around Kherson and the Zaporizhia, causing civilian casualties and damaging civilian infrastructure in Kherson city and region. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces said in a statement. It said a number of Russian forces were leaving their post around Zaporizhia. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, in his nightly video address, urged Ukrainians to hug loved ones, tell friends they appreciate them, support colleagues, thank their parents, and rejoice with their children more often, which, of course, it's difficult to do in normal times, right? A lot of love loss in these days, but imagine being in the middle of a war without electricity, bombs dropping randomly. You don't know if one's going to hit, where you're located and kill you. Being without water, without basic necessities, very difficult to, tell people to do as they sit there and wait for the outcome. And again, you got to remember, guys, in most wars throughout history, the leaders, the people making these decisions, are sitting in their palaces. They're well off. They're eating nice hot dinners. They're taking nice hot showers, right? They're watching television. They're not suffering from outages. And they have a way out of the war. So it's always the populace, right? The citizens that suffer all of this. And it's very easy for the leaders to sit there and tell their citizens, oh, you have to endure, be happy and rejoice. When they're not the ones in the middle of it all. Of course, there were certain situations throughout history where you actually had leaders, fighting in the wars, in the hand-to-hand battle, but that's with few exceptions. That's a That's a lost tradition amongst our modern day leaders. Uh, but yeah, so it looks like Zelensky tried to encourage his citizens in the midst of all the terrible things that they are experiencing right now. So let's keep going here. Okay, so Eastern Front. Heavy fighting also persisted around the Ukrainian-held city of Bakhmut, now largely in ruins, in the eastern province of Donetsk, and to its north around the cities of Vatove and Kremina in the Luhansk province, where Ukrainian forces are trying to break Russian defensive lines. Britain's defense ministry said Russia had likely reinforced the Crimea section of the front line as it is logistically important to Moscow and has become relatively vulnerable following Ukrainian advances further west. There's still no prospect of talks to an end of the war. Zelensky is pushing a 10-point peace plan that envisages Russia fully respecting Ukraine's territorial integrity and pulling out all its troops. Again, Zelensky is calling for some sort of summit or UN summit or something like that where he wants to go over their requirements for a peace plan. But it seems he doesn't want Russia there, which, again, that's just going to make the Russians, it's going to insult them even more. And, pretty much the peace talks are non existent, right? Ukraine wants Russia to fully back out and, exit out of all the territory they've taken. So Ukraine right now, what Zelensky is asking, right, is for Russia to leave and, leave all of this territory that they've gained. But on top of that, he also wants them to, leave this area down here, which of course the Russians are pretty much saying, hey, all of this belongs to Russia now. This is in fact part of the of the Russian Federation here. So there's no way we're going to back out of this. If you want to, at the very most, we can settle a peace agreement right now as everything is. And Ukraine is saying, no way, you guys are insane. You have to leave all of this, and we're not going to stop till we have complete victory. So pretty much all these offers of peace talks from both sides are not realistic at all. And of course, we now have reports here that the United States is planning on sending more defensive equipment to Ukraine, right? Like the missile Patriot systems. It looks like Russia is mobilizing a lot of tanks now to the front lines. Some of their more advanced tanks, like the Armada 14. And so, things seem to only be escalating. And Ukraine says that, they are suspicious and they think that Russia might be launching, a large-scale offensive towards the capital, Kyiv, here. Like Russia attempted at the beginning. Also, as I reported in my previous video, Russia is now reorganizing their military, right? Their way of thinking, and instead of sending individual small units, they are now going to revert to their old style of organization from the Russian Empire and the Soviet era. And so they are now going to group their soldiers into bigger divisions, and they're going to move them now together. So they're changing their philosophy here, and if they do that, the attacks are going to be that much more difficult to resist for the Ukrainians, since it seems that the thought here is that the more soldiers they have together attacking a single point, the better chance that, those Russian divisions have at withholding those areas that they do take over without having to retreat because, a small platoon or a small squad of men was injured, and so they have to, back out of those points because of the overwhelming force of the Ukrainians. So the Russians have a lot of men, in a certain city, and, they do suffer some sort of setback. It's going to be a lot harder for the Ukrainians to push all of those soldiers out. Rather, they would sit there and fight it out, and then Russia can come in with reinforcements. So again, Russia is switching up a lot of things here: their strategy, their attacks, their weapons, and it seems that it all does seem to point to plans for a large scale attack. Of course, we have Belarus up here, an ally of Russia. We actually have Russian soldiers up here. At the beginning of the conflict, Russia did attack the capital through Belarus. And, again, Ukraine is suspicious that Belarus might join themselves with their soldiers in the attack. So I think, again, this year is going to be, I think, these upcoming months at the beginning of the year, 2023, we're going to have a lot of developments. I think things are going to boil up, things are going to get more intense, and I think it's going to be a decisive moment in this battle. Unfortunately, personally, and I have to give my opinion, guys, because I can't just sit here and read off the articles without saying anything personally. I think that at some point, Ukraine, or at least the capital, is going to be taken by the Russians. I just don't see the United States, going all in for Ukraine. I don't think they are willing to risk a large-scale conflict, right? World War III over Ukraine. I don't think they are willing to risk nuclear war over Ukraine, unfortunately for them. I think they will help them out here with like these Patriot systems, but again, that's not going to be enough. They do have these countries, supporting them, but they aren't supporting them enough. That's exactly why Zelensky flew to the United States to urge them to send them better weapons, better jets, better defense systems. Of course, a while back, Zelensky was actually asking for a preemptive nuclear strike on Moscow. So, the thing is desperate there. You have to be realistic about this, guys, okay? This is like the United States down here fighting a war with Mexico and Russia sending over weapons, right, to Mexico. It doesn't matter. Mexico's not going to beat the United States unless Mexico has nuclear weapons, and at the very best, they can destroy each other. But there's no way, unless God, himself defended Mexico. But that's just the real world that we live in, and that's the exact same situation here, that is happening in Ukraine. Although I would say the Ukrainian army is, was better than what Mexico has there in a theoretical war between, Mexico and the U.S. I think the Ukraine was better armed. But again, a lot of soldiers have been killed here. Things are definitely looking very eerie here for the Ukrainian people. And, it looks like Ukraine is sending drones into Russia, right, and carrying out attacks into Russian territory. So I think that's only going to precipitate these large-scale offensives that the Ukrainians are suspicious about. So, that's going to be it for today here, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Again, I don't mind if you have an opposing view. I don't mind if your forecast for the war is different. We're all human beings here. I don't enjoy seeing this suffering, but again, I do think we are living in the end of times, and I think this is all going to eventually lead up to World War III. But personally, I don't think it's going to take place because of Ukraine, but I think that this is creating that division between the allies, or the Axis, whoever you want to call the Axis, Russia or whatever. But yeah, it's creating these two sides that eventually will, get into confrontation, World War III and the end of the world. But yeah, things are developing very quickly, guys. And yeah, we have to keep an eye out for all of this, because this is going to affect all of us, the world economy, and all of these things. So I will be making more videos on those other topics, like the economic collapse that I think is coming, and all of these things. So yeah, just remember, guys, the truth is stranger than fiction. I hope you have a wonderful day, and God bless.